So guys, I decided just to talk a little bit about the Give and Grow experience here in Guatemala. I'm sitting here in a city or a town called Antigua, which is just outside of Guatemala City. And as you can see behind me, there's a huge volcano, which is actually covered in cloud right now, but there's volcanoes all around us, and it's quite spectacular. And we've just had a week that is bordering on indescribable, because I'm not a guy who's short of a few words, as you probably know if you're watching this. But it really has been extraordinary, and it's really hard to kind of capture and try to solidify what this week has meant, not just to me but to everybody else. We had 4 days in an orphanage with kids ranging from essentially 1 month old right through to 16 or thereabouts. And I think what was overwhelming from the minute we walked in the door was just these kids just being so grateful for us being there and hugging us, and literally the second we walked in the door, and then many of them being standoffish, like just being kind of reserved and distant, and watching them kind of like open up as the 4 days. And it doesn't seem and sound like a lot, but it's extraordinary how we impacted and how they opened up to us, and therefore opened us up in essence. And it was really through the simple things like painting their nails, and yes, I painted their nails and they painted mine. That's gone now, but simple things like that, playing soccer with them, just holding little infants and just spending that time with them, not necessarily giving them stuff. And we did something where we gave them shoes, and we all contributed, and we bought some shoes for the kids who needed them, and they needed them. And one boy, this tough boy that was kind of like the tough guy in the yard, the play area, basically came up towards the end of the 4 days and just said, listen, thank you, in English, with tears rolling down his face, and pointed down, and we looked down and there's his new shoes, and he wouldn't even take the tag off. But I think for me, there's lots of moments that blew me away, and one of them was when I spotted this young boy sitting there. He was probably about 13. He was sitting there crying, and I thought maybe he's been bullied or had been hit, or his toy or something was taken from him. And I had no Spanish whatsoever. I mean, literally zero. Which actually kind of is cool in a way, because it allows you just to kind of be present for them and not trying to fix something, if that makes any sense. And I basically, went to kind of put my arms around him and console him, and he was very reserved, and I decided to push through on that, and I did it anyway, and I kind of held him, and the next minute he just leant into me and buried his head in here, and I picked him up, and he was quite big, and I picked him up and I sat down on this bench with him, and he just held me for like what felt like an hour and a half, was probably like 4 or 5 minutes or whatever, and he just buried in, and I just stroked him and just said, listen, it's okay, and just talk to him. And I eventually got the guy who was representing us on the ground and looking after us to interpret. I brought him across, and I said, what's he saying? Because he kept saying something just under his breath, and he said he misses his mum. And that was definitely the most challenging one for me, one of the most difficult ones for me, but also ironically one of the most rewarding ones in its own way. And it sounds very sad, and it is, but to be able to just literally be there and console, because these kids don't have the staff and the resources and the people around them to look after them and to just engage with them. And you can often think that just because it was 4 days, you think, oh, we're gone, we're in and we're gone. What impact could you make? And trust me, the impact was enormous, because the interpreter gave back to us a number of things, and I'll just share a few of those. One girl around 13 years old said, you've restored happiness, you've returned happiness to the orphanage for the first time in a very long time. And she wasn't bullshitting, it was just very sincere. One of the other girls said, we're like angels, not real angels, but they're angels, and that our time there and engaging with them made such a huge impact. And the tougher children, one of the guys in the trip, Mike, was saying that what struck him was the tougher kids, the real kind of strong, tough kids, were crying when we left and saying goodbye to us. And again, I don't see that as sad. I'm stuck with the impact that we made. And there was 2 girls in a wheelchair, for example, that were upstairs when we were playing and engaging, and we broke up into groups, and we're all engaging in different capacities with the kids. And there was 2 girls left upstairs in the wheelchairs, and we asked for them to come down, and they came down, and they were very closed, very reserved, and they were mentally challenged in different ways, and very just disengaged. But by the end of that day, they just felt such value that we had actually gone out of our way as a group to bring them down, to bring them into into our little community we had created. They felt special, and therefore they opened up to us, and they turned out to be very entertaining and lots of fun, etc., etc. So we made their day as well. So overall, it's been a staggering experience, not just because I've run this and put it on, but it's probably blown my expectations in terms of what the experience is about. The group of people that came down were just unbelievable. What a great start for the first Give and Grow.